Okay, let's look at Chapter 7% on Section 7.5 on interest. So when we do interest, we have several key terms. So these are all, terms from finance. Since we have a balance, that's basically the current amount in account or a current amount owed on a loan, and we label that as A. So that's going to be our A. Then we have a principal. This is the initial amount invested or borrowed. That's going to be P. We have an interest rate R, and it's going to be a percent per year or some other unit of time. Depending on the unit of time, you have to be careful of that. And the percent needs to be converted to a decimal for the problem. So while it might be stated as a percent in the question, to put it into the equation, it has to be in a decimal form. Then we have the time, which is the duration of the loan or the investment. And it can be years, months, days, whatever, and it's labeled in T. And so that should be in the same unit of time as rate. So when you multiply, the units will cancel. And then we have several formulas. We have the simple interest formula, which is I equals PRT. So we just take the principal times the rate in decimal form times the time, and that will give us how much interest we earn. And that's when they ask how much interest has been earned on this account. Then some of them will ask calculate the balance. Basically what we're doing here is we're adding the interest to the principal. So the balance is equal to the principal plus interest, or in terms of our letters up here, it's A equals P plus I. Well, I we get from here, and so what we can do is we can say, okay, well, if we combine the two, the balance is P plus I, which is PRT, and we get P plus PRT. Well, now we can be tricky and say, well, that is the common term in both of them. So we pull it out front, so it's P, and what's left is 1 plus RT. And so we get the final formula A, which is our balance, equals the principal times the quantity 1 plus RT, and that will give us directly our new balance if we know the principal and the rate and the time. So how much simple interest is earned if $2,500 is invested at 5% per year for 6 years? Okay, well, that's going to use the formula I equals PRT. So I is equal to P, which is our $2,500, times our rate. Again, we have to convert this to decimal, so we drop the percent, move it 2 places to the left, 0.05, times T, which is 6. Okay. Now we need to multiply all those together to get our final interest. So if we take the 0.05 times 6, that's going to give us 30, and move it 2 places, 0.3. So this is 0.3, and we can drop the trailing 0. We don't have to worry about it. And so now we take that times that, and we get our final value. So 2,500 times 0.3, 0, 0, 15, 6, 7, 1 decimal place. So the amount of interest we earned over that period of time was $750. Again, we had an interest rate of 5% over 6 years, and we invested the $2,500. Similar, how much simple interest is earned if $4,000 is invested at 6.5% per year for 6 years? So we're going to use the same formula. We're going to say I equals PRT. So I is equal to the principal, which we have this time as 4,000, times our rate. Well, again, drop the percent, move the 2 places to the left, so it's 0.065 times the number of years, which is 6. And so this time, I'm not sure which way it'd be easier, but I'm going to take the 4,000 times the 6 first, just to change it up. 1, 2, 3, 24. And then I'm going to take that times 0.065. So then I have 0, 0, 0, that's 20. 10 plus 2 is 12. Then I have 0, 0, 0, that's 24. And 12 plus 2 is 14. So we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 6, 5, 1. When we add those together, now don't forget 3 decimal places, so that would be there. And so it looks like our interest is $1,560. Okay. So when we invest more at a higher rate, we make more money, which is what is to be expected. So this one's more of a loan. So it says a business owner borrows $3,200 for 4 months at a 9% per year simple interest rate. At the end of the 4-month loan period, how much is owed? Okay, so we are going to borrow this. So that's going to be our principal. Now, our time is 4 months, but our rate is 9% per year. Notice those are not equal. So what we need to do is we need to convert our months into years. So how do we do that? Well, how many months are in a year? Well, there's 12 months in a year. So if we take and divide that 4 by 12, that will give us the amount of the year. And so we're going to do the same basic formula. We're going to take I equals PRT. Now, our rate is 0.09. Our time, like I said, we don't want months, we want years. So if we do our unit conversion, we have 4 months. And then we can take and say, okay, well, there's 12 months in 1 year. And so our months cancel. And we have 4 divided by 12. Well, what is 4 divided by 12? That's 1 over 3, and that's years. So we have a time of 1/3 of a year. All right, so now we can plug everything in and we get I equals, now our principal was 3,200 times our rate 0.09 times 1/3. All right, so first thing I notice is I can take 0.09 divided by 3 because what I have here is if I take these two and multiply them, that gives me 0.09 divided by 3. Well, 3 goes in here once, 3 goes in here 3 times. So I get out of this 3,200 times 0.03. So now I just have to take the 0.03 times the 3,200. So 0.03 times 3,200. And so I get 0, 0, and that's a 6. And then there's 0 and a 0. So if we want to put all those in, and this is a 9 and a 0 and a 0. So it's 0, 0, 6, 9, 0, 0. And we have 2 decimal places. And so when you look at that, all we really have is I equals $96. And so that's how much interest we earned, or actually had to pay over those 4 months. So that's how much was paid for interest. But what do they ask for? How much is owed total? Well, what we have to do there, the total is just going to be 3,200 plus the 96, and that's going to give us the 3,296. And so that will be our total that we owe. Okay. And we could have used our other formula as well, but this one I kind of was able to break it down and kind of show you how when you have the rate and the time and you can multiply and get that. But we could have also used the nice formula here and simplified it that way and found out our balance that in that manner as well. Okay, so let's see how that works. So in this one, we have A equals the principal, 3,200, times 1 plus R, which we had was 0.09, times the T, well, it's still 1/3. Okay, so we found that this one was 0.03 when we multiplied it up here, and we're going to take 1 plus that. So really, this is going to be 3,200 times 1.03. Well, what do we get when we do that? So 1.03 times 3,200, that's 0.0602. And then here we have a 903. So it's 0.06923. And so that's 3,296. And guess what? This number matches this one. So we could do it both ways. We could do it the long way where we take the I and find P times R times T, get that value for interest, then have to remember to add it back into the original. Or we could just use A equals P times 1 plus RT, and we get our value out directly. And so either way, we get the same value. What's one way? We do it a different way. All right, so here it says a business owner borrows $4,200 for 4 months At the end of the 4-month loan period, the interest owed is $63. What was the simple interest rate as a percent? Okay, well, interest rates again usually are in years, and so we notice that we have months again, and we already know that 4 months is 1/3 of a year. Okay. All right. So what do we have? We have the how much they borrowed, the principal. We have the time, and we have the interest. And so I equals PRT. Well, we know I is 63, P is 4,200, R, we don't know that one, and T is 1/3. Okay. So what does that give us? Well, I can take 4,200 divided by 3. That's, I think, what I would do first, and that would simplify the right side. So that's going to give us a 1. That's a 3. Bring down that. That's going to give us a 4, 0, 0. So now that says 63 equals 1,400 T. Okay. Well, now what do I do? Well, I now divide both sides by 1,400. So I'm going to take 1,400 into 63.00000, and this one they want to, it doesn't say, so we'll just hopefully figure out what it is when they get there. So we bring our zero here, our decimal here, and we have 0. Now how many times does 1,400 go into 630? Well, it doesn't. Okay, how about 1,400 into 63? Let's try a 5. That would be too big. So how about 4? So that's a 0, 0, 16. That's a 5. So that'll go in. That's going to give us 5600. Subtract, that's 0, 0. Borrow 1. That's going to give us 7, 0. Now 1,400 times what? If we have times 5, I think that's what we had before. That's going to give us 7. Okay, so it's a 5, and we get 7. We subtract that, we get 0. So that's why they didn't tell us what to round it to, because it's going to be equal to. Now this is a decimal form. We have to move it 2 places to the right to get to the percent form. 4.5, add a percent sign, and that's not a T, that's R, sorry. I can't read my own writing apparently. That's an R, and that's an R. And so that's our interest rate over that 4-month period to get the $63 of interest they owed. All right, so this one, we're looking for the balance after 2 years. Well, remember the balance is A equals P times 1 plus RT. Now we could also do the old way. We could take PRT and then add it to the P and get it that way. But let's do it just the straightforward way. Plug everything in, multiply, add all that, and get our answer straight away. So A is equal to, well, P is 5,200. 1 plus R. Well, R is 3.5%. So if we move our decimal, 0.035, and the time is 2. Okay. So we have an extra parenthesis there. So now we have to take 0.035 times 2. So that's a 10, that's a 7. And then we have 0, 0. And we move it 3 decimal places. So we have 0.07 plus 1. So it's 5,200 times 1.07, because this, when we multiplied, we got 0.07. And so now we have to take 5,200 times 1.07. And so when we do that, that gives us 0, 0, 14, 2. This gives us 35 and a 5. So 0, 0, 4, 6, 5, 5, 2 decimal places. So this looks to be 5564. So that's going to be our balance if we invest $5,200 at a 3.5% simpler interest over 2 years. Okay. And again, the key here is knowing that formula there, or again, we could have done the longer way. We could have taken the I equals PRT, found that, and then A is equal to P plus I, and then we would have got the same thing. So either way we want to do it, we're going to have to add and multiply both ways, and this one is just a little quicker, I think. All right, so how about this one? So suppose $9,800 is invested at 2.75% simple interest. What will be the balance after 6 years? So this one's about the same as the last one. We want the balance after 6 years. So we're going to take P times 1 plus RT. And so A equals, well, 9,800 times 1 plus R, which is going to be 0.0275 times 6 years. So we have to take 0.0275 times 6. So that's going to give us 30. That's 45. That's 12 and 16. And then, so we move it 4 decimal places. So that's going to be 0.1650. So that's going to be 9,800. Then 1 plus 0.165. We can drop that last 0 so we don't have to have all the extra zeros that aren't needed. Now this is going to give us 9,800 times 1.1, 1.0, no, I can't write here. 1.165. And now what do? We multiply them. Well, we take 1.165 times 9,800. So we drop down our 2 zeros. Now we have 5 times 8 is 40. That's 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. 8 and 5 is 13. 8 and 1 is 9. Then we move over here. That's going to give us a 45. That's going to be 54, 58, and that's going to be 14 and 10. So it's a 0, a 0, a 0, a 7, 11. That's going to give us a 14 and then a 1 and 3 decimal places. So all those zeros they just disappear. And so it looks like it's going to be 11417 is going to be our balance in the future 6 years if we invest $9,800 at 2.75% simple interest per year. All right, what about the next one? So it says the balance on an 8-year loan is $12,264. If the principal borrowed was $8,400, what was the simple interest rate as a percent? Well, this time we're still going to use our A equals P times 1 plus RT, but we need to find out what is the simple interest rate. So we need to find that. So we're going to have to kind of do things a little backwards and do some algebra to solve for that. So that says 12,264 equals 8,400 times 1 plus R times T is 8. Okay. All right, so what do we need to do here? Well, first off, we need to divide by 8,400. Okay, so when we do that, that cancels. And then we have to do that division first. So 8,400 into 12264.000, and hopefully this works out nicely. So we put our decimal here, and 8,400 will go in here one time, which is 8,400. Subtract that out. 4 minus 0 is 4, 6 minus 0 is 6. And now we need to borrow, so that's 11, that's 12, so it's 8, that's a 3, and now we can bring down our 0. And then we have a 0, and then we have 16, and we have 32, 33. And so that looks like it's going to work. So that's a 4. So 3, 3, 6, 0, 0. Subtract that off. That's a 0, that's a 4, that's a 0, that's a 5. Now bring down another 0. So 50,000. So 8,400 times, let's say 6. It might not go that high. Let's say 5. Let's try 5. And so it's a 0, a 0, a 20. That's 42. And if we add 8,400 to that, 0, 0, 4, 10, 50. Oh, we did need this 6 after all. And so that gives us then 6, and then we have 5,400. Subtract that, that's 0. So over here we have 1.46 equals 1 plus 8r. Okay, well, let's subtract 1 here and subtract 1 here. So now we have 0.46 equals 8r. Now we have to solve for r, so we divide by 8. So now we have another division to do. All right, so 8 goes into 0.46000. So that's 0 point. Now 8 times 0 is going to give us that. So now 8 times 6 is 48, so times 5 is 40. Subtract that, that's 6, bring down a 0. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract that, that's 4, bring down another 0. That's going to be a 5, and that's going to be 40. Subtract that, that's 0. So that's our decimal form for the rate. R is equal to 0.0575, but to percent, that's 5.75%. And so that's going to be our interest rate. So again, we used our regular balance formula, but we had to solve for one of the variables. We had to solve for r. Sometimes they might say solve for t, or they might say solve for p, and so you just have to do algebra to get back to whatever you're needing to solve for. All right, so this one says the balance on a 6-year loan is $6,838. If the simple interest rate is 5.25% per year, what is the principal borrowed? Okay, so this is another one where we have A equals P times 1 plus RT. We know time, we know A, we know the percent, and so what we're looking for in this case is P. So 6838 equals P times 1 plus R, 0.0525. Again, convert that to a decimal, drop the percent, move it 2 places to the left, times T, which is 6. And now what we have to do is do this math within parentheses first. So 0.0525 times 6 is going to give us 30. That's 12, that's 15, that's 31. And move it 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 0.3150. And so then that's equal to P1 plus 0.315. We'll drop that last 0, we don't need it. Makes things a little easier once we start dividing. And so if we divide both sides, 1 plus that is going to be 1.315. So we divide that side by 1.315. And so those cancel. And so now we take, and well, what do we know about dividing by decimals? Well, we can't do that. We have to move the decimal 1, 2, 3. So we're going to have to add 3 over here. 1, 2, 3. And so that says 1315 into 6838.123.1234. All right, so now we have to do this division. So what do we have here? Well, 5 times that maybe 13, 15 times 5. So that's going to give us 25. That's going to give us a 7. That's going to give us a 15. That's going to give us 6. So that works. So that's a 5. So that's 6575. Subtract that off. 8 minus 5 is 3. Now we have to borrow. So here we have 6 after we subtract there. 7 minus 5 is 2. Now we bring down a 0. And well, guess what? That's twice that. So that's times 2. So that's 2630. Subtract that 0. And so then we have a 0, 0. And so P is equal to $5,200. Okay, and when we have this, you have to remember to keep filling in up into that decimal place. After the decimal place, if there's zeros, we just drop them, but you have to put them all in if they're not there. So then we have to have those, and that makes it $5,200 for the balance, or for the principal borrowed to get the balance of the 6838. All right. So this one says a balance on a 2-year loan is $8,322. If the simple interest rate is 7%, what is the principal borrowed? So it looks like just like the last problem, I think. We have A equals P times 1 plus RT. We have the time, we have the balance, and we have the rate. So 8322 equals P times 1 plus 0.07 times 2. And so now we have to take 0.07 times 2. And so that's going to be 14. So that's 0.14. And so 8322 equals P times 1.14 because we just add that to 1. Now divide by 1.14. Divide by 1.14. And again, we can't divide by decimal, so we move the decimal 2 places here. So we have to move it 2 places here. So we have 114 into 832200.00. All right, so 114 times, maybe 7. That's going to give us 28. That's going to give us a 9. That's going to give us a 7. So that's a 7. That's 798. So we borrow, that's a 12. So 12 minus 8 is 4. That's 12 minus 9. That's going to give us 3. And now we bring down a 2. 114. If we multiply that by 3, that's going to give us a 12. That's going to give us a 4. And that's going to give us a 3. So it looks like we have our value now. And so 342, subtract that 0. And don't forget, fill in the rest of your zeros. And so our principal borrowed was $7,300. Okay, and that's on a 7% interest rate loan for 2 years, and are having our balance of 8322. All right, that's all I have for this section.